everyone, and welcome to my speed build where we fixed my 10-minute build gone wrong. So we are going in, if you missed the video, I'll link it in the description below, but I tried to build a house in 10 minutes, and that's the house you currently see. And honestly, for 10 minutes, it's not bad. Like, it's not a success. It's a functional house, but it's not bad. It could have been worse for someone who's never tried it before. I will say I only extended the house. I did not change the layout at all, except for the fact that you saw me in the back. Just bump that out a little bit. The master was just a weird shape, and it helped a lot to do that bump out that way. But I wanted to go back and fix this up because it is a really cute house and it had great potential, and it turned out so cute that I'm actually going to put it in my save file. I don't know if I'm going to move it to a different lot or if I want to keep it on the one in Copperdale. I think I might keep it on the one in Copperdale. So in terms of my save file, you will not see this house for a long time. My plan is once I finish a world for my save file, I'll release my save file as it is in terms of the singular world that's done. I'm not necessarily going to build it in every world as is, but I will post it as I finish each world, just so you guys can start playing in it. I'm working really hard on it. I want you guys to play in it. Stay tuned this week. We are actually starting to post some of the casts for the people that are going to live in these houses. I had a story combined and kind of thought up for this house as well. In terms of this house, you're seeing me work on the landscaping right now. The landscaping wasn't terrible. It was a little bit more natural. In terms of when I think of this family, and you'll see this a little bit more when we decorate inside, this family is like very middle class, I imagine. Like they have enough to survive, but they don't have like this big fancy house, not a ton of necessities. And so you actually see this like mock back porch I built. It's not in a foundation, it's anything like that. It's just some gravel they've laid down, and they have a stove, and they have a picnic table. And I really tried to make the very small backyard space this house has very engaging, very nice. There's a couple planter boxes for your Sims, there's a sprinkler. This house specifically is going to have a kid and a teen living in it, and so I thought that was very fitting. And so I imagined them like having a lot of outside time as a family, again because I imagine them to be like a middle class family, and so therefore like they can't go out as much. So when I was building this house, that's the story I was thinking about. We do have like the water balloon fighting, we have the telescope. I'm going around and I'm doing the terrain paint right now. So it looks very nice from the outside. It looks very nice from the front. Very cozy, quiet, and quaint. But it has this really nice backyard space without making this kind of over the top backyard space. And so I really, really liked how the outside of this house turned out. It was kind of weird to do the outside of the house first. Typically, I decorate the inside, which I'm currently deleting most of. I put furniture in there and I was building, and he just plopped down what was there. And so I actually went in, deleted all of the furniture so I could redo it. I changed a couple wall colors that I wasn't super fond of, again, because 10-minute build challenge and we were just trying to make it functional. And so I was just trying to plop some stuff in. I'm currently working on the parents' bedroom. That's where I decided to start. I think this is where you're going to kind of start to see this storyline evolve of like, like they have enough to survive. It's nothing crazy, very modest living. You'll see that mostly when we get to like the kitchen and the living space. It's kind of like they just moved in and that's just what the house was built with instead of like going through and renovating the place. The parents' bedroom, I think the furniture and that's a little bit nicer. I imagine maybe they found some of this or got gifted some of it. It's really interesting. I used the mirror from Vampires in the room. I don't know why, but it weirdly just worked really nicely with the jungle adventure furniture I used. And so I really ended up liking that. I don't use vampires very often, but when I do, I'm surprised at how useful it is. The computer for this house is also in the parents' bedroom. So I did want to make sure I put in a computer, but didn't really have a good spot in the main living space for it. And I had this empty corner in the parents' bedroom. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe the parents have a computer in their bedroom. And I really kind of liked that. It makes me think of my house a little bit when I was growing up. Like the computer was my parents' computer. I did not use the computer. It wasn't quite in my parents' bedroom per se, but like it was my parents' computer. It was not my computer. It wasn't a family computer. Like I asked to go on the computer and then I was allowed to go on the computer when I asked. So I really like that. I did decorate the bedrooms very like modestly. The house is more expensive than you would think it is. It's like 40 some thousand simoleon, so it's not a cheap house necessarily. It's not a starter home. So I'm sorry, the price of the house might not necessarily match my idea of who lives in the house, but I didn't give myself a budget for it. I just wanted to make this like really cute and nice house. We are moving on to the little girls, like the girls' room. I love how their bedroom turned out. I actually mixed and matched the bunk bed so that it wasn't just a copy and paste of the same bed sheet. Like it's the same color pattern, but because the one is a different direction and kind of pushed up against the wall, you can't really tell that it's a different bed style. And so I used that to my advantage for it. I struggled a little bit with the layout of the girls' room at first. You're going to see me kind of swap things around. At first, I put everything against that back window, but then I had a lot of really awkward open space in front of the big windows in the room. This room is also really interesting because the room had a lot of windows. I ended up like I put curtains in there that I really like and I love to use in like girls' rooms, but the curtains were way too much, so I had to change them. We have this like purple pinky theme going on. I think it turned out very cute. It definitely, to me, kind of feels like a teenager is sharing a room with like a little kid. I imagine this being more of like a younger teenager, like just aged up into a teen, more of a preteen. Still has like a couple of their arts and crafts from when they were a kid. I end up putting like the drawing board in there later. I didn't put as many like kids skill items. I'm really sorry about that. Like I could have put in like a drawing table or something. I did not. I'm sorry. So in terms of functionality of playing in this build, you might want to add a couple of like that child play stuff. But like it had plenty of toys, toy box, the bear, the size down. Oh, see, those are the curtains. It was too much. The size down dollhouse, stuff like that. I imagine these kids being very big like bookworms, so I actually lined the top of the bookshelf with a ton of just like those book stacks, and I really liked that, and it definitely added like a storytelling piece. Again, I really just love how this room turned out. I love the flow of the beds. I love that I put in the little end table, almost like that's like the teens like little space. I think the teen sleeps on the bottom bunk, right? Like it feels very like little kid yet, but also again, I'm imagining like a newer, older teenager staying in the room, and she can't really put her own style in it because her younger sister lives in the room. So this will end up being a save file house, like I said. And so I am super excited to make the Sims for this house. I also, because they live in Copperdale and I think I'm going to keep the house in Copperdale, we need a teenager in the house. I think that's only fair. This is where you can kind of start to see of like, okay, like the family is enough. They have a house. It's nicely furnished, but they have these very modest appliances. They have the cheapest counter set. Like it's just like what the house was built with, just this cheap counter set. I almost gave them this really big, like, above counter set, and I decided it was way too much for the space, and so I just left it as is. And it's very plain, which is what I was going for in this house. Like it's decorated nicely, but it feels very just plain at times. Same thing with the kitchen, like a lot of it's really functional. I debated putting the fruit bowl on the counter at one point, and I was like, nope. The fruit bowl is interesting to me. I feel like that's something people in like a higher socioeconomic area do often. Like I grew up on a farm. I was a farm kid. We did not have a ton of money. We did not have a fruit bowl sitting on the counter. I do not have a fruit bowl sitting on the counter. I very rarely meet people with fruit bowls sitting on the counter. So that's really interesting. Same thing with like the TV setup. You can see like I use the smaller TV. We're using a little bit more of some of that beat up furniture, almost like they've had it for a while. I really tried to get two love seats in here because I wanted enough chairs in the living room for everyone living in the house. But the two sofas was too much, so I ended up using like two little like recliners. The living room is definitely a little cramped. I'm gonna be honest with you. It is a little cramped, but it feels very cozy, very nice, very clean and modest. The whole house was really the vibe I was going for. I cannot say how much I really loved how this house turned out. I was pleasantly surprised that my 10-minute build challenge turned into this, especially because I did not think my 10-minute build went that well. It was not ideal. I really thought I was going to do better. And I got very, very humbled when I did the build challenge. So it was nice to go back in and actually go in and like fix up this house and turn it into something I'm a little more proud of, right? It was not my best work, and I like it a lot more now, so that's good. So I also got to use some things I don't typically use a lot in houses in this. I don't typically use a lot of the furniture. I don't think I've ever used that couch set in my life. I've played a lot of Sims. I have this issue of I typically like to gravitate towards the same furniture all the time, but because I'm building a save file, I'm really forcing myself to use different sets of furniture and stuff just to help vary my houses because it's going to be really boring in a save file if all of the houses look the same. The other thing I'm trying to put in all of my houses is the little decorations box for seasons. And there wasn't a good area, so I actually just snuck it right there. Like, that's kind of like they have a couple storage totes. Like, that's their catch all area. And so I really liked how that looked. Like, the calendars there. It's just like this little messy corner of their house. If you watch my speed build I did the other day on my channel, apparently I've really just been liking putting like the cute little messy corner of my house in. We are getting ready to move into the screenshots. You'll see some really nice pictures of the front and the back and the layout. I really hope you guys enjoyed this little like fixer upper video. I had a lot of fun making it. I will see you all tomorrow, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.